We're going to give a demonstration on how to make a Dutch Vlaai this morning. I'm just going to let you know about the ingredients. First, we have 2 cups of self-raising flour, 125 grams of cold butter cubed, 1/3 of a cup of sugar, 1 cold egg. That makes the pastry base. The filling will be a pineapple. This is what I buy. Covered with a few little sultanas, some sugar and some cinnamon. Now, your utensils, you should all have one of these, which is the Dutch cutter. Make sure that when you've got the cutter that you've got this little label that says top, that it's on the top, like that. Now when I do this, I've got a nice big flan dish, and I like to cover the base with some alfoil.
Turn it over.
I just cover the base with some alfoil.
Right. Okay.
I find it just gives a nicer base. Now before I start all my cooking, putting the pie together, I spray this with just some canola oil. Then I put a little bit of self-raising flour in the base, like this. And that goes into the fridge. Just leave that in the fridge like that. If you watch Gordon Ramsay...
He swears a lot.
No, he doesn't. He's actually very good. He does it very fast. He does say you have to be very precise with pastry cooking, with your ingredients, which I have been today. And try not to handle the pastry too much. And that's why he likes to use this Magimix. That's why I like to use it, because you're not handling the pastry too much, otherwise the dough goes it's not short enough. So basically I put 1.5 cups of flour to start with. So I'll leave a little bit out. You might need a little bit, just leave a little bit out. The butter. The sugar.
Is that brown sugar, is it?
I use brown sugar. You can use white sugar.
Yeah.
I just have raw sugar. Okay, now I'm going to get this and I'm going to whisk it. Just go back. It's a bit noisy. 1, 2, 3.
You know what?
1, 2, 3. A little prick. Then add my egg. See, it's sort of gone crumbly, a little bit like a sort of a crumbly look. Yeah. There. And have we got the cold water?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll just do it again. So probably have a nice one. Now, a little bit of water. It's hard to say how much, but because you can see that consistency now, little sort of crumbly look.
You say cold water, didn't you?
Cold, just a little bit of cold water. If you're using a mix master, just a little bit at a time, until you get it all coming together. Just a minute. You see how it's starting to form into a ball. When it's like that, I just put the last bit of flour on it to gather it all together. You see that? Nice round ball like that. Probably a little bit wet, but this one. Might just add the tiniest bit more flour. It's a little bit of, I suppose it depends on how big the egg is or something. You just have to kind of, now it's falling together. See that now? You've got a nice ball like that. Now not a lot of flour, but a bit of flour on there. And I keep, let me just turn this up. You don't want to do a lot of kneading on this either. It's quite a moist base because it makes it taste better. Okay.
Yeah, you can't over-knead it, can you?
No, you don't. And the thing is, it's nice. So now I just split that, take out about a half. About a half. And we do the, fill up the, okay. I do a lot of turning it over, so I want to keep it nice and round, and
Mine all fell apart a little bit.
and if it's a bit, and I keep putting the flour there so it doesn't stick. It's quite a moist base. Turn it over once more, hold it a bit. I'm actually putting very little pressure on this. Just go once more, just put a bit more flour under that. It's important that you've got this not sticking to the base. See that?
And I do it like that.
Make sure you've got that's about the right size. Can you see that?
Yep.
Then I pick it up. And then I lay it on here like so. It'll be all right, don't worry about that, just move across. Now at this point, I just roll it on. Where you've gone a bit short, don't worry about that, we can just fix that up. I should have gone on a little further. It can go here, don't worry about that. In the end, you won't notice any of that. All of this gets taken out. A little tiny bit here. Now, and then I get a knife and I just make sure that I take all of those bits and pieces out. I usually use the end of a chopstick. Make sure all of the little things are out. And I just gather this together. Put it all together. So I'm not wasting any pastry. See, I'm under a bit of pressure here. At home I don't have a film crew. Okay. Now we're going to roll this lot out. Once again, I take it quite slowly doing this. I don't, and it's quite a light touch when I do this, taking it slowly, not hard. Yeah.
Why does it go in the fridge?
Oh, they said everything cold. It makes the pastry a little shorter. I've tried to look that up, but it makes the pastry so doesn't rise. We don't really want it to rise too much. Now I'm just going to gently push it in everywhere. If you've got a little spot that's a bit thinner,
Fill it up, yeah.
just fill it up, and you got to lay it in rather than, oops, lay it in there. There's a little spot that's a bit tiny, won't hurt like that. That'll be all right too. Because once we put the top on, just make sure that goes in nice and even all the way around. Sort down. I just roll that little bit off the top. No. What about that little bit like that?
That's okay. I'm going to
Yeah, I'm just going to put a little tiny bit there, but it will all come together all right because when I put the top on. Okay, now it's important to do this. Fork. Prick the base. You know why you do that, don't you, Paul?
No, why?
Because otherwise you get air pockets underneath and the whole base of the pie lifts up. This is so that you get a nice even heat under there and it doesn't lift up. So this is important. Okay, let's that bit, so that's not bad. We've just got a little bit of pastry left. That's not bad. Mum would be very proud of me.
That actually makes it quite a nice biscuit because it's a short pastry.
And then I just put this tin in. Now, some people would say once you've made the pastry, stick it in some Glad wrap and stick it in the fridge for half an hour. I don't think it makes much difference. But
Oh, before you do this
yeah,
part.
you could leave it for half an hour while you're doing some housework or something. But I prefer not to do any housework, so it's. But I've often done it. If you're in a hurry, you can just do it like this. Okay, this is not sweetened. This pie. This is unsweetened, so we do have to add a bit of sweetener with it. So once that is done, I put some sultanas, just to give it a bit of sweetness, like this. Just a few. It's hard to know, you know. Just if you like a lot of sultanas, fine. If you don't, okay. Right, that's that. Needs a little bit of sugar. A handful of sugar like this, and just sprinkle it like this. Just that's enough, I'd say. We're all trying to cut out on sugar. And then a little bit of cinnamon. A little cinnamon spoon here. That's about it. Okay, that's that done. Now this is the bit that some people have difficulty with. Now when Mum used to do it, she used to flip it over, like that, try and flip it over. But in fact, if you've got it nicely packed down, you can simply go up, place it in position, and then lift the top one. Lift the top.
Oh.
That's the way to do it, isn't it?
Comes out perfect, doesn't it?
And then I just bring it across. So where you've got a bit of, you know, where it's missed a bit, just bring it in. I'll just bring it in like that. That edge, you know, you don't want it looking too perfect. You want it looking. Now, I found, before I made this up with just some alfoil. Basically, 3 pieces of alfoil and I shaped it. I found before I did this, I would have the top baked and the bottom not cooked properly. So what I always do now is I put this on top like this.
Hand forced.
Hand forced. I think I put it on the second shelf. Oops. Okay, now it's been 20 minutes and now I'm going to open the oven and I'm going to very carefully take the top off. Whoops. The top of the pie off. And as you can see, it looks nicely cooked on the sides. It's going to start lifting away. I need to take these biscuits away. And I'm going to leave it there for another 5 minutes. As Mum used to say, when you actually smell the pastry, it's usually cooked. So don't leave it much longer than that. Check the oven. Have a quick look inside. I think that is enough. I'm going to turn it off and I'm going to leave it the oven like that, just let it cool down a bit before it's got to cool down properly before you eat it.
How long for?
Oh, until it's cool. It could be a half an hour, an hour. But I leave it in there just for a little while and then I take it out to cool down. After about 15 minutes, I take it out of the oven. Oops. Oops. And if you can see that it's going to lift easily like that out of the, you know that it's well cooked. See how I'm doing that? Just leave that cool down completely.
Needs a bit more, doesn't it, Brown?
No, I don't think so. Because it's going to be covered with cinnamon,
that's
you
right,
know,
yeah.
with icing sugar. I find if you cook it too much, it gets too hard on the top. It's cooked enough. I think you need the base and the top
You get fresh fruit.
the same consistency. See how beautifully that's cooked? Second-hand microwave dish, you can pick them up at second-hand shops, always handy. If for an apple pie, this should flip easily, but if you have cherries, it might be a little bit moist, so you have to make sure it's absolutely cold before you flip it. absolutely cold, otherwise it'll
Run.
on the top. And I do this quite quickly. 1, 2. That's how it should look. The bottom nicely cooked all through. Back on
Colin, can you
top.
take it back? Is that fairly dry there, or,
Yeah,
or
it's
moist?
nice.
Or
No, it's nice. If you'd left, if you waited a little bit longer, it would be dry. But that is nice, and it's nice. It's. And then prick it back on the middle, and over you come. And see, if it been completely dry, you wouldn't get that little bit of moisture coming through. If it's completely cold, you won't get that. And then when it is totally cold, that's when I put the icing sugar on.
It's in the drawer.
You want me to put the icing sugar on now? Do you think?
Second drawer.
it's a bit sticky on top, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit, because it's not totally cold. You would do this.
My friends I made for my bridge lady were so impressed when I served it for dessert for lunch.
So, if it's totally cold, and see, it's not going to work. You'll have it coming out nice and white. But this is, if it's still warm, it's going to melt into it. So make sure that you put the icing sugar on when it's totally cold. Just like that, not too much. Okay.
Yep.
We leave it now.
Yep, big serrated knife. 1. I'll just go through the middle. See, it's still a little tiny bit too warm for me.
Pick a piece up. Sideways shot.
Oh dear.